Thank you for being with us today. Could you share a bit about your life before your near-death experience? Certainly. I'm Anna Thompson, a 44-year-old high school English teacher from a quaint town in Ohio. I have been married to James for 15 years, and we have 2 children together. Until about 6 months ago, my life was relatively normal. But then, an event occurred that altered the course of everything. What transpired 6 months ago? It was a typical Friday, around 3:30 p.m., just after I wrapped up my final class for the day. As I was walking to my car in the school parking lot, I felt unusually exhausted and somewhat short of breath, which I attributed to the hectic week. You mentioned feeling off. What happened after that? Approaching my car, I was suddenly overwhelmed by a sharp, intense pressure in my chest, unlike anything I had previously felt. It was a debilitating sensation that severely restricted my breathing. That must have been frightening. Did it feel like a severe case of heartburn, or was it something different? It was far more intense than heartburn. Imagine an elephant pressing down on your chest, making it nearly impossible to breathe. I knew immediately that this was not normal and something was terribly wrong. What actions did you take next? Attempting to unlock my car in hopes of sitting down to alleviate the discomfort, my vision began to blur and darken at the edges. I tried to shout for help, but I couldn't make a sound. The last thing I remember before everything went dark was feeling my legs buckle underneath me. So, you collapsed right there in the parking lot? Yes, that's correct. Fortunately, one of my colleagues witnessed my collapse and promptly called for emergency assistance. The school nurse hurried over with a defibrillator, and they administered CPR until the paramedics arrived. That was fortunate. Can you tell us what occurred while you were receiving emergency care? Indeed, this part of my story is quite extraordinary. During the efforts to resuscitate me and while awaiting the ambulance, I experienced what seemed to be an out-of-body experience. Describing an out-of-body experience is challenging, but it felt as if I were floating above myself. I saw my own body lying next to my car while people clustered around in a state of panic, someone making a 911 call. Despite the obvious urgency, I was enveloped by a profound sense of tranquility and detachment from the chaos below. That must have felt quite extraordinary. Did you feel any fear during this experience? Surprisingly, I was not afraid. Instead, I was enveloped by a sense of deep calm and serenity. Suddenly, a brilliant light surrounded me. This bright light seems to be a common element in near-death experiences. Is that right? Yes, it's frequently mentioned. However, this wasn't merely a light. It was as though I was being drawn upwards into an intense, all-consuming brightness that surpassed any earthly light, filled with warmth and overwhelming love. It sounds profoundly beautiful. In that state, did you come across any beings or entities? Indeed, I did. As I adjusted to the brightness, a figure appeared before me. It was Jesus. You encountered Jesus. Could you describe his appearance? It's hard to encapsulate in words. He didn't resemble the traditional depictions in artwork. He was luminous, and more than his appearance, it was the sensation of his presence that was most striking, full of love and acceptance. It felt incredibly real, as if I were fully known and embraced in his presence. His smile alone communicated a profound sense of peace and acceptance. Indeed, it was a profound encounter. Jesus spoke directly to me, and his voice was profoundly resonant, touching the core of my being. He said, "Anna, my child, I have much to show you. Are you ready to understand the true power of the Holy Spirit in a believer's life?" How did you react to his words? Despite feeling a mix of excitement and slight nervousness, I responded affirmatively, saying, "Yes, Lord, I'm ready." At that moment, Jesus took my hand, and we began to witness various scenes, as if we were both watching and participating in a series of vignettes. Could you share what you saw? What did Jesus reveal to you? The first scenario we witnessed involved a woman praying earnestly in her bedroom. Jesus told me she had just committed her life to him. As we observed, I noticed what appeared to be a soft flame descending upon her. Jesus explained, "This is how the Holy Spirit comes to reside within a new believer. Observe carefully." What did this flame signify? Could you see any immediate effect on the woman? Yes, the transformation was evident. Her face radiated a joy and peace that was truly remarkable. Jesus clarified that the initial mark of the Holy Spirit's indwelling is a profound, unwavering assurance of salvation. This deep-seated confidence, he noted, would sustain her against any doubts, affirming her place with him. That's incredibly moving. Did Jesus show you anything else? Yes, he guided me through various other vignettes, each illustrating a different aspect of the Holy Spirit's role in a believer's life. We watched a man known for his short temper exhibit remarkable patience and kindness under provocation. Jesus pointed out, another sign of the Spirit's presence is a transformation in one's nature. My Spirit nurtures the fruits of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control in the life of a believer. Indeed, Jesus was providing an in-depth look into the dynamic role of the Holy Spirit. The next moment we observed was a young woman timidly starting a conversation about her faith with a colleague. As she spoke, her confidence visibly grew, and her words seemed to deeply affect her listener. Jesus highlighted, the third sign of the Holy Spirit's presence is a zeal and potency for evangelism. The Spirit empowers believers, granting them the bravery and the right words to spread the good news of salvation. That's quite enlightening. Did Jesus discuss how these changes in you have been perceived by others around you? He did, and I shared with him how people have noticed a significant transformation in me. I told Jesus, there's a newfound lightness and joy in me that wasn't there before. My children have remarked on my increased patience and presence, enjoying deeper discussions about faith. Even friends who were initially doubtful have commented on my newfound confidence and the passionate way I discuss my beliefs. It has been incredibly affirming to receive such feedback. My co-workers have sensed a difference too. Recently, one asked me what my secret was, and how did you respond to your colleague's question? I took that opportunity to explain my experience. While some remained skeptical, it sparked curiosity in others, leading to meaningful conversations about faith. For our listeners who are curious about experiencing more of the Holy Spirit's influence in their lives, what would you suggest? That's an excellent question. From what Jesus showed me, it begins with an open heart. Inviting the Holy Spirit into our lives to enact change is crucial. This means daily surrendering, acknowledging our inability to lead a Christian life by our own efforts, and asking the Spirit for His empowerment. Practically, this could involve starting each day with a prayer of surrender, seeking the Spirit's guidance in our thoughts, actions, and words. Engaging with the Scriptures allows the Spirit to reveal its truths to us. Being responsive to the Spirit's nudges, whether to act or refrain from certain actions, is essential. Additionally, being part of a community of faith is vital, as the Holy Spirit often works through fellow believers to support, encourage, and hold us accountable. These are some really useful tips. I'm interested to know, has your experience shed any light on spiritual warfare or the existence of evil? Although Jesus didn't reveal specific scenarios of spiritual warfare to me, I emerged with an enhanced perception of the spiritual realm. It became clear that there is a lot more happening around us than our physical eyes can perceive. Jesus highlighted that those who are imbued with the Holy Spirit should not fear. He demonstrated that the Spirit residing within us is significantly stronger than any dark forces. Nevertheless, he emphasized the necessity of donning the full armor of God. as mentioned in Ephesians 6. The Holy Spirit enables us to withstand spiritual assaults, but we must proactively participate in spiritual practices that maintain our connection to God. Have you faced any hurdles or skepticism as you've shared your experiences? Certainly, not everyone accepts my account, and that's perfectly fine. Some have suggested that what I experienced was merely a hallucination due to insufficient oxygen to my brain. Others have claimed that I fabricated the story for attention. However, I am confident in my experience and the positive changes it has brought to my life. I don't feel the need to convince anyone. Rather, I simply tell my story and let God handle the rest. That's a very wise approach. Now, I'm curious, has your experience provided any insights into what happens to those who don't believe in Jesus? This is a delicate subject, and I approach it with caution. Jesus did not show me anything specific on this matter during my experience. What I can share is that I left with a profound sense of God's love for everyone. I believe His wish is for all to come to know Him. My experience has instilled in me a heightened urgency to spread the good news of Jesus to others, hoping they too can experience the love and peace I felt in His presence. That's truly intriguing. As we begin to conclude our discussion, I'm interested, how has this experience altered your view on suffering and challenges in the Christian life? That's a deep question. This experience has expanded my understanding of suffering. I've come to realize that our time on earth is just a brief chapter in our eternal journey. Any hardships we face here are fleeting when viewed against the backdrop of eternity. Moreover, Jesus revealed to me how the Holy Spirit utilizes our suffering to purify us and shape us more into the likeness of Christ. He doesn't instigate our hardships, but He employs them to enhance our reliance on God and to cultivate godly qualities within us. I now perceive difficulties as chances for the Holy Spirit to manifest His power profoundly. Often it's in our moments of greatest weakness that the strength of the Spirit becomes most apparent. Those challenging times are when we can truly exhibit the fruits of the Spirit, finding peace amidst turmoil, joy despite grief, and showing love to those who cause us pain. This perspective is profoundly beautiful. As we draw our conversation to a close, what parting thoughts would you like to share with our listeners? I would urge everyone tuned in to strive for a deeper connection with the Holy Spirit. Whether you are a seasoned believer or just exploring what faith might mean for you, the Holy Spirit is essential to realizing the abundant life that God desires for each of us. Don't be content with just a superficial faith. Allow the Holy Spirit to profoundly influence your life. Be receptive to His nudges, His corrections, His directions. It might be challenging at times, since the Spirit often pushes us beyond our comfort zones, but I assure you, the journey is incredibly rewarding. And remember, the influence of the Holy Spirit in our lives isn't solely for our benefit. It equips us to be effective messengers for Christ in a world that truly needs His presence. By letting the Spirit work through us, we embody the very essence of God's love and power. Lastly, I want to highlight that the peace, love, and joy I experienced in God's presence are accessible to every believer through the Holy Spirit. You don't need a dramatic experience like mine to meet God profoundly. He is always nearby, just waiting for you to welcome Him into your life. Thank you so much for sharing your remarkable story with us today. Your insights and experiences have been deeply motivational. Thank you for letting me share. I hope that everyone listening will discover the life-changing power of the Holy Spirit in their lives.